I think AI will be part of the solution, but I don't think it's going to be as big a result at this moment. It's going to be as big an opportunity.
Well, hello and welcome to today's episode. It's going to be me this time. So I'm Nirpal Virdee, and I'm excited to be joined by Darshan Kulkarni. And great to be sort of strategizing on some of these things like we used to in the old days.
And the timing's perfect. Like the world is in chaos, and we're going to try to add some
Yes.
order.
But one of the things that we've been specifically talking about recently is potentially a game change in the pharmaceutical world. This direct to patient engagement. So, I think, we've been helping companies really rethink their compliance in this space and their operating models because it's quite a bit of a change, right? In terms of, how they potentially, pharma companies need to line up.
What we're seeing is a whole new level of interest caused due to mushrooming drug and device costs. And what the pharma industry is trying to do is figure out ways to drop drug costs and device costs. We are going to see more changes. It was announced yesterday by President Trump that there will be tariffs coming down pharma's way, which means that they will be experiencing upward pressure for the cost of their drugs, which means that they somehow have to keep the costs low. And direct to patient might be a way to get that because they might help look at, well, is the middleman really adding the value they need, or is it better to go down a cash-based structure?
I mean, what do you think's driving this shift now to direct to patient? What's the key factors that you think, this is pertinent to this moment in time?
I think what it comes down to is number one, the fact that there is a lot of scrutiny on drug costs. The fact is that there are mostly healthcare costs are through the roof. And healthcare costs are usually divided into three major groups. One is drug device manufacturers, if you will. The second one is payers. So we're talking about insurance companies, PBMs to be more specific. And third is providers. Obviously, each of them, quite honestly, share their own portion of the blame. However, we can only control one element of it, which is pharma companies, device companies can look at what their profit margin should be and or what their costs are. And to enable dropping of costs, they have to look at either looking at which elements of that structure are necessary, or alternatively, look at which elements can be taken out and still optimize the patient engagement experience. We are seeing this dramatic drop, for example, in Walgreens and with CVS, both talking about how they're going to shut down all of these stores.
In terms of this patient engagement strategy, if we sort of try and link it with the AI, transformation that's going on, from the data collection point of view, that personalization that you can have, what do you think? What's the, is AI really reshaping this? Is there a connection here, or am I just clutching at straws? And how fundamental has this transformation really supported this drive to, for pharma companies to sort of cut those intermediaries and go directly to patients?
Well, you don't know how AI is making determinations. That's that black box problem we were discussing a few minutes ago. You don't know the basis of those decisions. And if without the basis of those decisions being made aware, it's hard to question those decisions or go, we need a different answer. So I think overall, AI raises some concerns. On the other hand, AI has its definite opportunities here, which include things like, well, in many cases, I want an answer at 3 a.m. when I'm just awake and there's no one there to actually answer the question. You also want a way to go, I need this information, but I don't want to sift through things. And AI is really good at that type of information. So I think AI will be part of the solution, but I don't think it's going to be as big a result at this moment. It's going to be as big an opportunity at this moment as people are hoping for it to be.
Yeah.
There are significant opportunities here. And the fact is that you've got to think through what are the opportunities it provides and how do you do this in a way that you can leverage the AI in a compliant way. And that's where you and I come in there, Paul. We help address those concerns. I come at it from more of a legal angle. You come at it more from a consultative angle. And we're providing overall solutions that many people haven't thought of, because I'm coming in not just as a lawyer, but I may be called on to actually help with the fact that I've been a pharmacist for 20 something years. So I know what that experience is. I've dispensed those drugs. And what happens when you eliminate providers like pharmacists or physicians in that value chain and try to add in AI, for example? What is that relationship going to look like when you start pushing these boundaries?
You know, I'm not saying share the whole encyclopedia, but what does a well-designed direct-to-patient model even look like? Like, can you give some insight as to, what you would need to establish, and what that journey might be that companies are on, and maybe we can give some insight in terms of some of the one work we've been doing recently, right?
The fact is that Lilly, Pfizer, Novo all have their own versions of direct-to-patient that are already starting out. There are other companies actively engaged in this process. And what we're seeing is usually what companies are trying to do is build a patient-centric viewpoint. Patients come in, they say they want the product, they get options. Do you want to get the product from your provider? In which case, here's what you need to go to your doctor and get what you need. Or you can go to a doctor we can connect you to, like a telemedicine company. It gets into this issue of patient steering, which is illegal in many states. Once you get past that steering issue, you now get into issues of agency. So you've got situations where pharma companies and medical device companies may be endorsing effectively one doctor, two doctors, or a group of doctors. And suddenly they're getting so many patients from you that they're beholden to you. If it gets reimbursed by Medicare or Medicaid, you might have false claims types of issues that come from it, because there might be issues of overutilization. Then what happens if those same doctors decide to prescribe the drug for an off-label indication? Well, is the doctor engaging in the practice of medicine, or are they now just trying to use the drug more for inappropriate reasons? What kind of training do you provide to those doctors? And then there's the question of, from the physician, does it go back to a third-party dispenser? So it could be an Amazon pharmacy, or does it come back to the pharma company who's going to have their own pharmacy inbuilt? Or is it going to go to a third pharmacy, an independent pharmacy? And where do they choose it comes from? Then lastly, what did the patient actually experience? Does the patient actually believe that they have a better experience? Who's going to engage with the patient? Do you know what the patient got? Should you have the right as the pharmaceutical company or the medical device company to go to the patient and go, hey, we heard you got this product. And most companies are not taking this last element, but it goes to patient experience.
The modeling around how an organization needs to look like, that seems to be happening, right?
Yes.
And that is not as difficult of the scenario that we've been looking at, right? I think in order for organizations to really look at their clinical and reg affairs and their marketing teams and how to integrate those and all these DSO organizations, that all makes a lot of sense, right? In order to try and really streamline, and then interconnectivity with tools around how they engage with patients. Pfizer for All and Lilly Direct, they're examples of these solutions, right, that have been put together to marry the connection with the pharma companies and the patient.
I think this is why we work so well together, Nirpal. I identified the risk, but you actually identified the opportunities, and coming together provides this expansive view that pharmaceutical companies and medical device companies need to think through, because they're going, how do I do it? Here's the solution. Here's how you do it right.
For companies to try and think about what that future is going to look like, where's this going? And what can you advise?
Right now, your Amazon Pharmacy and your other sort of online pharmacy providers are that next generation of tools that are giving you just the Pfizer and the Lilly Directs of the world are Pfizer for All, if you will, are these opportunities of saying, we will control the experience for you. We'll give you a better experience. You don't have to stay up till 7 p.m. to get the TV show you want, and you don't have to drive to the corner of Happy and Healthy to get the drug you need. However, what's going to happen is we've seen abuses of that problem. What you're going to land up with is some more laws that regulate both telemedicine, privacy, engagement, and these sort of direct to patient engagements themselves. The FDA will have to put out some guidance on it. So I think there'll be more clarity that comes along the way. Here's the good news. Who's the winner in all of this? I think the patient's finally the winner, because we're finally in a place where healthcare is being disrupted. Healthcare, which required that I make an appointment 6 months down the road, 2 months down the road, 3 weeks down the road to get a medication that I need, is now being disrupted. But I think having a way to directly go and say, hey, I think this is right for me. Could you tell me why or why not? And that's where telemedicine and direct to patient becomes an opportunity. The opportunity to have those conversations, those frank conversations with prescribers, and say, here's why I think I need it. Can you help me?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great perspective. And, we've been waiting for the evolution of this patient engagement, right? We've been talking about it, and we've been on engagements from a very early stage, right? And, there was some drive to do that, but was it really hitting the nail? Were the patients really being engaged in the right sort of way in which it was impactful for them? And I don't think we're potentially witnessing a fundamental redefinition of the pharmaceutical business model, right? And I wanted to just get your take on that. I mean, do you think it's that revolutionary that we're seeing this movement with this patient engagement?
Is it evolution or is it revolution, is the question you're asking. And I think this is one of those situations where it's both. At some point, an evolution is a revolution. I think AI is an example of that, right? AI has existed for the last 10 years. It kept evolving, but when you see it without perspective, it's a revolution. And that's kind of what we have right now. When manufacturers can directly connect to patients and give a better experience, that is revolutionary.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And I think from the things that we've discussed today, it definitely feels more of an evolution than a trend, at least.
That's fair.
At least let's park the revolution at this point in time. I think there's maybe a way to go, but I think this is more than just reaching out to patients, right? Which I think has been systematically what pharmaceuticals try to start off with. But I think it's about a way to build trust, right? And in that comes the things that we need to help in terms of ensuring compliance, and making sure that we're creating that long-term value on behalf of sort of the sponsors and the patients, but it in a trust and compliant way. I think this has been fascinating. I'm looking forward to talking about this in more detail and just seeing how we progress and what our experiences are with this.
I feel like you've been an incredible host, so thank you for having me.
Oh no, thank you so much. Okay, take care, everyone.
Call, click,